Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar as we are still seeing some snow around in places throughout the rest of today. Into the overnight hours of tomorrow we could see further snow for northern England and Scotland. We're going to have a look at the latest from the UK view, looking at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days. It is still going to remain cool over the next few days, but it is not going to be quite as cold as it is right now, where snow is falling over higher ground and to low-lying areas at times. As we head into next week, it is going to temporarily turn a little bit milder. Not really too much in terms of the upper air temperatures changing, but the wind direction will be changing to the southwest, which will allow those temperatures maybe to get around 10 or 11 degrees before we see the wind switch again to an easterly. So by around Wednesday, Thursday time, we will be all in a flat easterly wind. Now initially it does look like a little bit of a milder easterly with the air coming in from the southeast, but it could turn into a more of an east to northeasterly wind as we progress towards next weekend. We're definitely looking likely to see some cold air pushing in from the north, the south less so certain, and wherever we see that dividing line set up, we could see quite a lot of precipitation, which could be in the form of rain, sleet or snow. That is something we're going to explore in the second half of the video. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, which you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now, if you start on the live radar, you can see this big spiral right now that's across parts of the Midlands and northern England, and this is a low pressure system that has developed within the general flow. We've got a bit of an occluded front developing around it that's got some pretty cold air wrapped in within it. You can see it is a whole eclectic mix of rain, sleet and snow. Again, I wouldn't trust the exact precipitation typing of this because it is that sort of mix. The precipitation typings are better when we do have sort of a more succinct weather front where it's a proper dividing line between cold and mild air. Here, where it's all due to elevation changes, intensities, it can be a little bit of a foggy picture looking at those typings. But there definitely is quite a bit of snow falling within this. Mostly wet snow where it does struggle to accumulate, especially where it is falling to low-lying areas, but have seen a few surprises over the past 24 hours in terms of seeing some pictures, especially from areas around the southwest towards sort of Bristol and Bath. There's seen some snow earlier this morning. Of course, it always helps when it coincides with overnight hours where there's no solar energy, therefore those temperatures are slightly lower inevitably, but we are still continuing to see a bit of winteriness developing within this. Areas across sort of North England and southern Scotland over the higher ground, here we could actually see a few centimetres of snow through this evening, as this precipitation is going to continue into the overnight hours and it could remain fairly heavy as well. Further south and eastwards, as you'll see in a minute, the temperatures are still cool, but they're nowhere near as cold because we don't have as much precipitation and we don't have that evaporative cooling. We're seeing very strong temperature contrast today, not because of the upper air temperatures, which is normally the reason, but really because of cloud and evaporative cooling, which is where the precipitation falls through the atmosphere. And again, this is pretty basic physics or GCSE physics. When we see evaporation of precipitation, we do see the air around it cool ever so slightly. And when you've got enough heavy precipitation falling, it actually can make quite a noticeable difference in the temperatures. Maybe 2 or 3 degrees is possible in evaporative cooling. So areas around you could be 5 or 6 degrees, but you are under the heavy precipitation and it could be only 1 or 2, meaning the risk of snow getting to low-lying areas increases. Now, if you put on those temperatures at the moment, you can see that really quite distinctly here. Across eastern England, you've got some slight yellows developing, maybe 6, 7, 8 degrees. But across parts of the West Midlands, even into southwest England, or much of Wales into northern England, you can see the lighter blues temperatures towards the low single digits do follow the higher ground, but also, especially across these parts of the West Midlands, where it's not especially high elevation, all to do with that evaporative cooling, where we're seeing lots of precipitation today, which has simply kept those temperatures down and allowing that freezing level to drop to only a few hundred metres, and of course in heavier bursts to reach low-lying areas. Again, it's not a recipe for major snowfall, but it can give surprises like we have seen today in a few regions. Overnight tonight, all areas will be dropping pretty cold, as we will see in a minute, as we do see clearer skies develop. Now, if you put on the past 24-hour snowfall, you can see where we have seen snow over the course of the past 24 hours, said towards that southwest area. Again, some areas have probably seen snow, it's not shown up here, again, because this is estimated from the radar, which, as I said, is not always so accurate in terms of typing. So not all areas here that have seen blue have seen snow, and not all areas here that are not showing any blue haven't seen snow. But it is a rough guide to where we have seen heavier precipitation and snowfall. And you see the further north, so you are over the higher ground, inevitably seeing more. And I expect these areas of northern England, southern Scotland, even into central Scotland, could see quite a bit more in the next 24 hours. Now, if you go over to the latest UKV, you can see over the course of this morning that heavier snowfall across parts of the southwest. Again, very marginal, but it's really occurring wherever we see those heavier bursts. Through the rest of this afternoon and into the evening, that snow will continue further northwards. Again, patchy in terms of its typings, but more confidence over the higher ground of northern England and Scotland into the early hours of Sunday morning. Through the rest of tomorrow, still pretty chilly out there, but precipitation does decrease quite substantially. So it's going to be a much drier and sunnier day for many. But that's going to allow those temperatures to really fall away into Monday morning. Could be quite a harsh overnight frost. Coldest overnight temperatures we've seen in quite a while is looking quite likely. Maybe -2 or -3 pretty widely. Into Monday afternoon, as the wind direction shifts with the southwesterly coming in. As you see in a minute, the upper air temperatures don't actually increase all too much, but it will subtly increase those temperatures just because of that wind direction change. You can see initially it's a southwesterly, but very quickly into Wednesday, this weather front gets pushed through and then kind of stalls as the wind starts to veer to an easterly. You can see this on the mean sea level pressure. Initially it's a southwesterly, and you can see it's transitioning to a southerly, and by Thursday into Friday, it will be an easterly. As you can see, a strong high pressure system is developing to our northeast, and it will start to drag some cold air in. There is some pretty cold air to our northeast. Most of the longer range charts, though, only really getting in for northern areas at this stage. Southern areas, it's more touch and go, because there is some milder air across Central Europe that a lot of the runs try to tap us into. Now, if you look at the max temperatures, you can see that through this afternoon, the power of evaporative cooling, West Midlands, Wales, only a couple of degrees above freezing, elsewhere 7 or 8 degrees. As we head overnight tonight, harsh frost is looking possible, especially where we see clearer skies around the -1 to 2 degree mark for most inland areas. Again, where we still have a bit of winteriness at the surface, more moisture, the temperatures will fall further, again, subtly, but when it's the difference between 1 or 0 degrees and the difference between ice forming and not, it is quite a big deal. Into Sunday afternoon, temperature's not going to rise all too much, but you can see that whole region of lighter blue towards the west has disappeared, and that's because we don't have that precipitation anymore. Widely, we're looking at 5 to 8 degrees. As said, though, into Monday, it could be quite a cold night, widespread overnight frost. And again, you can see many areas, especially the Midlands, Northern England, southern Scotland, could be down to -2 or -3 degrees. Again, we're likely to see this oscillate a little bit over the next couple of days, depending on the exact upper air temperatures, the exact cloud amounts as well, affecting that. So anywhere around that -1 to -3 mark does look plausible. Into Monday afternoon, still chilly in places, but look, wind direction changing to 10 or 11 degrees across the east, and the same can be said about Tuesday again, maybe 10 or 11 degrees at best. And eventually into Wednesday, it's much milder actually, 10 to 13 degrees, but we are expecting that wind to drop, the temperatures to drop as that wind changes to an easterly by Thursday and Friday. So if we do have a look at that longer range, which now is looking really easterly dominated, you can see that high pressure builds towards Scandinavia. It's there from around Monday onwards, but doesn't have too much of an impact until around Wednesday, Thursday time. You can see southerly wind initially, but by Thursday that wind veers into an easterly, and by Friday we're into a full-blown easterly. You can see what I've said though, it's more of a southeasterly initially, and the cold air to our northeast isn't getting fed towards us yet. So that simply means if we put on the upper air temperatures are actually relatively mild. colder further northwards. Longer range though, we do tap into some chillier air further northwards. As I said, further southwards it's more touch and go depending on the size and the positioning of the block towards Scandinavia. Eventually though, the GFS breaks it down and we go back into more of a westerly, but it's still trying to amplify the jet stream and still trying to pull in cool air from our east. That is one to watch as we progress into the middle part of March. Now, if you compare to the GM, again, high pressure builds up towards Scandinavia, initially more of a southeasterly, and then it veers more into a flat easterly, and actually a pretty cold easterly there towards the end of the run. As I said, most likely going to be colder further northwards than it is further southwards, and in this sort of scenario, you would expect quite a strong temperature contrast. As you can see here, 2 meter temperatures, 5, 6, 7 degrees in the south, 0 degrees further northwards, and you would expect to see a lot of precipitation around and the risk of even some snow, especially further northwards. But it will be very much one that depends on those exact upper air temperatures, which I must say at this stage are not pinpointed at all. Now, if you compare to the ECMWF, again, high pressure builds up towards Scandinavia, building in a southeasterly by Thursday, Friday, and then more of a flat easterly into the longer range, but still this low. If this cleared to our east, then we would probably draw in that colder air, but it doesn't quite clear, and it means that the cold air really only gets in for Scotland. So similar to the GEM, it's cold in the north, milder in the south, but I still wouldn't call it mild in the south. It's still average upper air temperatures, still chilly, and if we look at those 2 meter temperatures in the day, maybe 10 or 11 degrees, but I don't think the feel like temperature will be like that at all. Much cooler further northwards, and you'd expect lots of precipitation coming in with that easterly wind. And of course, the big thing about this easterly is it's not high pressure dominated. We can see easterly winds like we've seen earlier in the winter, where it is a strong easterly, but we've got pretty high pressure. However, here we have got higher pressure towards Scandinavia, but actually for us, we're around 1,000 millibars or lower in places, which means that there will be lots of showers and convection taking off. So even though it might not be a very cold easterly, it doesn't look like it's going to be a dry easterly at all. If it was a cold easterly and a pretty unsettled easterly, then we could be looking at quite a bit of snow, and of course the sort of perfect storm in that scenario is the beast from the east that we've seen in the past. Here though, it's not quite cold enough to see precipitation falling as snow widely, maybe over higher ground and in the north, but that is something, as I said, to keep an eye on, because the upper air temperatures are still all over the place depending on the exact tilt of the flow. Now, if you finish by looking at the latest ensembles, you can see what I mean by not really got an idea on those exact upper air temperatures. I say the majority are around average, but you can still see quite a few do go well below in that longer term time frame. But generally around average, and you can see precipitation actually increases as we do see that Scandinavian high develop, and you can see the pressure isn't actually particularly low or particularly high, but it's because of all that convection coming in off the North Sea means that we will see still plenty of precipitation. Dew points, definitely a little bit all over the place. Some colder dew points, some milder dew points, and again, it's all dependent on that exact flow in from the east. And if we compare to the ECMWF ensembles, it is similar, perhaps a little bit more biased towards some colder runs towards the middle of the month. That could be something that's pretty plausible. And again, at this stage, we'll have to just see. I do just want to have a look further northwards, so we'll go up to Glasgow, for example, and I just want to see what that is showing for those upper air temperatures, just because we saw quite a few colder runs there for Glasgow, and if we do have a look at it, you can see definitely a lot more colder runs appearing, but still milder runs, slightly bringing up that average. So actually, although colder options are more likely further northwards, it isn't pinpointed there either. So we'll have to see what happens over the course of the next couple of weeks, but the most likely scenario is easterly winds pushing in pretty cold conditions at the surface. Yes, won't likely see much snow, at least initially, but we will likely see pretty chilly conditions. It's an easterly wind this time of year. No matter the exact upper air temperatures, it is going to feel cool coming in off the cold North Sea, where sea surface temperatures around 6 or 7 degrees. So it is going to drag in cloud, precipitation, and a feel-like temperature that will make it feel close to freezing, probably in most areas, especially towards that east coast. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. You stay safe today and over the next couple of days, especially in those areas that have seen some heavy precipitation around, because even though unlikely to see much snow stick around, overnight those temperatures are going to drop away and we could be seeing quite a few ice risks over the course of the next couple of days. So as I said, do stay safe. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.